The Tolkien Road, Episode 74, Concerning Peter Jackson's Fellowship of the Ring.
All right, go ahead. The Tolkien Road, 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 the Tolkien Road,
Hey there, fellow travelers. Welcome to The Tolkien Road, a long walk through the works and philosophy of J.R.R. Tolkien. On this episode, Greta and I are fresh off of a reading of Fellowship of the Ring, and so we thought it would be fun to go back and watch Peter Jackson's 2001 film adaptation of the book, and then share our thoughts on it with you guys. Before we get started, though, why not hop on over to iTunes and leave The Tolkien Road a rating and feedback? It's a great way to show your support for the show and takes less than a minute. Thanks for listening, and enjoy. Hello everyone, welcome to the Tolkien Road. John here, Greta.
Hey.
You're there.
I am here.
Yeah.
Here and there.
What's
and everywhere.
Here, there, and everywhere?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There
and back again. Here, there, and back again.
That's a song by the Beatles too, isn't it? Here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And there and back again, yeah.
Here, there, and back again.
Here, there, and back again.
Bilbo's version of the song, right?
Perfect, yes.
So last episode we finished Fellowship.
Yep.
And we decided that we'd do something a little fun, and we watched the movie, Peter Jackson's 2001 cinematic version of Fellowship of the Ring.
Is there another one?
There was an animated version of like The Lord of the Rings, which was really, I don't know, I've never watched it. I've just heard it's not very good.
Was it like The Hobbit, the cartoon Hobbit?
Yeah, but but it's kind of like, it was kind of like incomplete, and it's like they ran out of money or something like that. So anyway, we're talking about Peter Jackson's.
Okay,
yeah,
I just was
film.
curious.
So we thought it would be fun, having just watched the movie and just finished the book, to share our thoughts on both with you. So that's the plan for this episode.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, so let's do it.
All right.
You ready?
Just going to jump right in?
Jump right in.
All right.
I mean, did you have anything else you wanted to do before we did?
No. I didn't know if you had did you make like a special song?
No.
Movie episode song? Okay.
No. I can...
You could sing the...
I could sing May It Be. No.
You could sing what?
May It Be, the ending song at the end.
Oh, no, don't do that. That
Ruin it
bad.
for you. All right, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the movie.
Right.
Do you want to go first, or do I want to go first?
Why don't you go first?
You sure?
Yeah, you took notes. I didn't.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll just
I thought maybe you could just start and I'll chime in.
Yeah, we'll just kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
No peeking off of my notes, by the way.
Okay.
Did
you
already
told me to
peek?
take mental notes, by the way.
I did. Yeah. Well,
no, you told me to take mental notes, so I didn't write anything down.
Well, I meant like you didn't have to write it down while we were watching the movie. I didn't want you to be there like with a pen and paper, like trying to watch the movie, because that's no fun. But take mental notes and then jot them down.
And then jot them down. And I meant to jot them down, but I forgot. So
yeah. Good, way to go.
Anyway,
good job.
Pat myself on the back for that one.
All right, so here we go. The first thing, so let me say that. Let me start off by saying this. I really love this movie, and I want to say I'm going to have some criticisms here and there. I definitely have my things that I can kind of be picky about, but I think on whole, I think Fellowship of the Ring is it's one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. Like it's incredible from start to finish. I mean, the way that Jackson just got the feel so right of the stories. And that's not to say that he didn't leave a lot of stuff out. I mean, obviously he left a lot of stuff out. We'll talk about some of that. But I also want to say that this is the movie, this is the thing that got me really started on Tolkien. Like, I read The Hobbit when I was a kid, but I hadn't read The Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
This movie came out when I was in college, and I think you were still in college too. I married an older woman, by the way.
Shh! Don't tell them that.
Yeah.
Wait, this is 2001?
Yeah, this is 2001. So
When in 2001?
You probably were just graduating. I think it came out like in the late spring, early summer. So
Okay,
you
so
maybe
I was
had
probably
just
on my way out
graduated.
of college.
But anyway, so this movie, it just completely fascinated me and like captured my imagination. I must have, I know I saw it at least twice. I may have seen it more times, which is unusual for me. I don't see a lot of movies, and even back then when movies were, it wasn't as easy to just like watch whatever movie you wanted to from whenever, and you can just stream it automatically.
Yeah.
Even back then, like, it was rare for me to go see a movie twice in the theater, and I may have seen it 3 times in the theater, which is huge.
Wow.
I mean, I loved it that much. I loved everything about this movie, and it made me. I think I'd tried to read The Lord of the Rings once or twice before and hadn't gotten started, because Fellowship can be a little slow going when you don't. The actual book can be a little slow going when you don't first know it.
Right.
But watching this movie, I mean, I was just captivated. It was such an intriguing sort of story, and the way it was told, visually told. The way the characters were presented, it was just immersive. Like you just felt like you were just in this world, for 3 hours.
That's true. Yeah.
And so. What was cool was, there was basically a year between when Fellowship, the movie, came out and when Two Towers, the movie, came out. And I think I read Lord of the Rings twice in that time frame.
Really?
Yeah.
So you had not read the book when you went to see the movie?
I had not read the book, but I read the entirety of the Lord of the Rings at least once, I think twice, by the time the Two Towers came out.
Wow.
So I got to give props to Peter Jackson's movie for that.
He got you into it.
If it had not been for that movie, I don't know that you'd be listening to this podcast today. So, and probably lots of people would say, that Jackson's movies got him started, on Tolkien.
Yeah, probably.
But, given how much I love Tolkien, I mean, just thinking about how much I love Tolkien and how much he means to me can kind of bring tears to my eyes. And so I got to salute. I just want to say from the start, I'm going to say, a few things that were things that I would have liked to see done differently, but I don't want this to come off at all as me like hating on the movie, because I'm not. I love this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know that anybody could really have done it better. Like, I think it's about the best you could do. And I understand why Christopher Tolkien is not really a fan. I don't know. I haven't delved deep into his thoughts, but I understand he's not really a fan of the movies that have been made off of his father's works. But and I can kind of understand that, because he has an entirely different perspective that none of us will ever have on him.
Yeah.
But for me, it's hard to think of Fellowship of the Ring being done better. Really practically better. Now, ideally.
Well, yeah, I know
maybe
you're an idealist.
Maybe some different emphasis. Maybe some things that I think should not have been left out. But we'll get to that. So anyway, that's my preface. That's my preface to all of this. All right.
So you like the movie a lot?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it a lot.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
I watch it a lot.
I probably watched it. Gosh, we have we watched the extended version the other night. That's the one we own, and so it's like 3.5 hours or something like that.
Oh, I didn't know that was the extended version.
Yeah, but I probably watched the movie 20 times. I remember one time when I was in the Navy and we were underway for a while, and I had an extended period off, where I didn't have to stand any watch for whatever reason, and I think I watched all 3 extended versions, Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King, back to back, and it was like I was just in my stateroom, dark, headphones on, looking at the screen for 12 hours, right?
Wow.
I think I got up to use the bathroom. I think
hope so.
Yeah. But
unless you were dehydrated.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But that was the greatest viewing of it all.
Do you remember
ever.
when we lived in Charleston? It was before kids, and we had a Lord of the Rings marathon in our first apartment.
Yeah.
And, like, all your Navy buddies came over, and we, like, just ate a ton of junk food. And we tried to watch all 3, but I think we all fell asleep somewhere during Return of the King. I don't think we made it all the way through.
Yeah.
Because we were probably drinking and, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember that. I also remember watching, I think it was, I don't know if it was, I can't remember exactly which one it was. It was either Fellowship or Return of the King. It may have been Return of the King. It was one of the movies. I remember it was the night before we were going to get married. And my poor brother, who had to play trumpet voluntary, was so nervous he couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
And he put that movie, he put one of Peter Jackson's movies on. I can't remember which one. I think it was Return of the King. I may be wrong.
Yeah.
But I just remember sitting, watching, because I was too nervous to sleep too. And so we just watched Lord of the Rings movies the night before my wedding.
Is like, as dramatic as they are, there's something also just so, like, it's like, I mean, they capture a lot of the same effect that the books do. Like, you know, just that kind of, like, even though there's all this peril and everything around, there's something like, there's a heart of peace.
Yeah, there is, definitely. There's something very soothing about it. And that's that escapism thing that that I remember talking about in, was it on Fairy Stories or...
Yeah, right.
About that notion of feeling like you can just forget about everything else. Forget about what's going on. Forget about what you're stressed out about. And just be a part of this world for the time that the movie's playing. Yeah. Yeah. That's a pretty remarkable feat in and of itself, I think. Absolutely.
All right. So my first thing that I want... So I'm gonna talk about some of the things I like.
Okay.
Some of the things I really like about the movie. The first thing that I want to say that I really like about the movie is the intro. Like, the whole, like, preface, you know, how it starts out and you hear Galadriel whisper, like...
yeah.
You know, there's... I think the first thing, or, like, there's this whisper in a different language, which must be Elvish, I'm not sure. And then Galadriel says, the world has changed. And like, I just remember that for the first time, like, in the theater for the first time, and it's like... I mean... It's just so good. Like, it just totally sets the stage, like, for everything. And that's something that Peter Jackson is really good at. Even with the Hobbit movies, which I still like, but I was not as big a fan of. He did the same, like, he really did that well. Like, the intros, always done well. And he knows how to, like, start off a movie. I'm a fan of, like, introducing something, you know, like, kind of building up.
Set the stage.
Kind of building up the tension, you know, and everything, and, like, setting the stage. You know, even when it, like, comes to music, that's the type of music I like. I like it when the song kind of, like, starts out, you know, and kind of builds up to the thing. Like, those are my favorite sorts of songs. And this movie, I mean, that's got to be one of the greatest, like, movie intros ever, you know. And it, you know, it's brilliant that he has Galadriel narrating it, because Galadriel, of course, is, like, you know, I mean, Galadriel is even, like, well, you can't say her history goes back farther than Gandalf's, because obviously we know Gandalf is a Maiar,
right?
But as far as, like, being centrally placed in the stories of the elves, right? Galadriel has been there from the beginning, right? I mean, she has seen it. She lived the Silmarillion. You know, she lived the Second Age. She's lived the Third Age. So she's, like, the perfect person to narrate it. And just the way it kind of, like, lays it all out, like, why we should care about this story, about this ring. You know, it's like the battle where Sauron comes out, and you know, it's the last alliance of elves and men, and you've got Elendil and Elrond, like, and all the huge armies of elves and men lining up against the armies of Mordor, and you know, and there's that great scene where Sauron comes out and he's just mowing everybody down, and then Isildur, you know,
cuts his hand
cuts
off.
his finger off with the one with the ring, and so I love the intro. Like, I think I could just watch the intro over and over. Like,
they flash back to that again during the movie, don't they?
They do, like, little flashbacks, and I think that's another thing that's really well done. You know, like the little flashbacks at different times too. Like when they're at the Council of Elrond, and or maybe it's not. Maybe they're not quite at the council. No, they are. And Elrond flashes back to when he's in.
3,000 years ago. Yeah.
he's in the chamber of Mount Doom,
Right.
where with Isildur trying to get him to throw the ring in.
Yeah.
There's another flashback like that. I can't remember what it is though, off the top of my head. But anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of...
It's the same scene, isn't it? The intro and then that one during the council, or is it not?
No, it's not the same scene.
The
they're
same
different
scene.
scenes, but they're from that same period.
Same period.
Yeah.
Same battle.
Right after the flashback is right after the battle.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, and then the one at the beginning is the...
Because he gets the ring, and then Elrond's like, you gotta destroy it.
Right.
Right.
Right, and he doesn't.
Yeah. So, I would say, like, right off the bat, I love the intro. Like, the intro to me just is the perfect beginning.
It just draws you in.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I think I've watched the commentary once on Fellowship, where like the commentary is like Peter Jackson,
right, talking about
why, like, basically over the film, like why they did different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they said that they hadn't originally planned to do that intro, and they just felt like it was like, the start like didn't make any sense, and so they went back and made this intro. And I don't think it was originally Galadriel that narrated it either, but I think they realized that, like, Galadriel needs to narrate this. And so anyway,
cool.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, it's real. That's
all right,
good.
Your turn.
My turn.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that I really love, and this is, probably goes without saying, is the scenery. I mean, the scenery is just breathtaking.
Yeah.
And it's so varied as the movie goes on. Rivendell is like...
Yeah.
Totally like, I want to go to there kind of place.
Right.
And just how, of course, Hobbiton is just how I would have pictured it.
Right.
And then there, even the Great River scene, I think, is done so well with, it looks like what you would think of as the Great River going through, winding through all these forests, and Lorien. Yeah, I think they nailed the settings. There's not one. In the Halls of Moria, that couldn't have been more perfect.
Yeah.
And the statues, when they're coming down the river and they're heading toward the falls, the statues with their hands out.
Yeah.
It just kind of took my breath away. Lots of different places, and I just kind of found myself thinking, how did they do that?
Yeah.
Like, how? Yeah. My God, it's too perfect.
Well, it's and I think maybe we're lucky that Peter Jackson is from, I think he's from New Zealand. I'm pretty sure he's from New Zealand. He might be from Australia, but I think he's from New Zealand.
Okay.
And of course, like now, like, in our minds, like, most of us think like New Zealand is Middle Earth. Like, you jokingly refer to New Zealand as Middle Earth now because the movies were all filmed there, and like its terrain is, I guess its terrain is so varied that it was able to pull that off.
Yeah. It's just amazing.
Yeah, that's definitely one I had in mind too, is like the locale.
Yeah.
Just the way they, it really does feel like you're in the Middle Earth that Tolkien describes.
Absolutely.
I think they benefited a lot from the fact that there was, like, Tolkien himself had, was, so vividly described so many landscapes, but also, like, all these artists that had done visual depictions based on Tolkien's words over the years.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, good one.
Yeah.
Good one. My next one is the music. So, Howard Shore did the music for all three movies, and I think this is like, the music for the music that he composed. It might be almost as memorable as, like, some of John Williams' best scores.
Star Wars.
He's the Star Wars, and he did like Indiana Jones, just some of the, like, really iconic, theme song, movie themes. There's so many, like, iconic ones. There's the, first of all, you've got I think it's, I'm not sure which theme it is. I think it may be like the Ring theme or whatever. It's the and then you've got you hear that, you know exactly what it is, right? It's like the Imperial March, right, from Star Wars, right?
That's true, yeah.
It's the Ring, it's the Ring song. You hear Dun, 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 dun,
Oh,
dun,
yeah.
dun. You know, you think of like Aragorn, right? You think of the Fellowship,
Yeah,
right?
and
You
it's
think of
like
the
a
warriors of the
kingly-
Fellowship, yeah.
Yeah.
You hear
Was that written originally for that movie?
Well, no. So
It's a take on.
it's a take on "This Is My Father's
Right, that's
World,"
what I
which is
thought.
like a 19th
Okay.
century hymn, I think.
Okay, yeah.
But that's brilliant. Like, you know, what is the line? Like, good artists borrow, great artists steal. I mean, it's totally he totally ripped it off. But
Yeah.
it's perfect because, it's like the ideas that go into "This Is My Father's World" are like such hobbitish ideas. Like that's the spirit of the Shire, you know. And I mean, I think it was brilliant of him to like put two and two together. I mean, I think that's genius. That's artistic theft is genius. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a songwriter. You know, I know the same thing. Like, you know, your best stuff sometimes comes. You know, it's not that you like just flat out rip something off. I mean, if you just write the same song, it's not. There's no brilliance in it. But if you take an idea and kind of that's a good idea already, and you kind of do something else with it and put it in a different context and kind of put your own spin on it. I mean, that can be brilliant. You know,
Sure.
that's recognition.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
And then you know, those are just the three themes that kind of jump out for me, and then you've got the Enya music that I really love. Like, you know, it was funny because before I watched this movie, I kind of thought like Enya is like kind of this joke.
Yeah. I know you made fun of me for buying her first album.
And but I mean, the music she did for this movie was, I mean, she was perfect to, you know, like made the "May It Be" song, and I've got the soundtrack, and like, you know, I love the one that's like the But in Dreams, I think, where it's got like the boys choir singing, you know, like the high pitched voices, you know, kind of the choir singing. But you know, just all around the music, you know, I saw something one time that said the music in a film tells you how to feel about the film. Like,
Yes,
like kind
I
of
think that's very true.
kind of makes you feel the film, right?
Absolutely.
Makes you feel the story.
Yeah.
And it's
without music,
yeah.
the movie was
Oh,
wouldn't be nearly as
you know, and it's funny when because there's a lot of, you can find a lot of these things on YouTube where like they'll show you scenes, like famous movie scenes without the music, you know, and it's like, it's such a different experience, you know. Like, think of, I never want to watch Star Wars without the music, because I'm afraid of what it would do to the film for me, you know.
Yeah.
But the music just, it's a big reason it draws you in so well.
Absolutely.
You know? It's a big reason that the movie draws you in.
No. Yeah.
Uh-oh. I just set off my alarm.
You set off your alarm?
I clicked it. There we go. Whoops. Whoopsie doodle. All right.
Alarm fell.
Well, any other thoughts on the music before we move
No,
on to
I
your
agree.
next
I
thing?
mean, it would not be the same movie without the music, and I
Yeah.
agree. Like, I mean, "This Is My Father's World" rip is like my favorite thing. I could listen to that over and over, and it's just so perfect, you know, with that song playing and the hobbits wandering. It's just like, you know,
Yeah. It's such a little,
fits
it's such a
perfectly.
peaceful kind of like, and it just feels something like connected to the earth, and
yeah,
I don't know, you know, and
yeah,
and that whole like the opening scene where the music, and that has like the little it kind of introduces the theme, and it does, and Bilbo's talking, like narrating about hobbits,
Yes.
and it does the little fiddle thing. Yeah,
yeah.
I just love that part.
Yeah,
You know,
it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's really well done, for sure. Yeah, good stuff. Oh, well, my next one, I guess, is I think overall, I think the cast was just spot on. Like, I think the characters, I mean, some I like more than others, but I can't pick out one person and say, oh, that
was
totally
miscasted.
wrong.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
the casting was spot on, I feel like, for the most part. And I think my favorite I shared this with you the other night, I think, is I think my favorite casting job is Sam. I just think you can't get any better than Sean Astin in that role. I mean, he's just perfect. He's absolutely perfect. And that's exactly how I think Sam should have been. Yeah. And portrayed. And of course, Frodo, I'm not good at real names. What's that guy's real name?
Elijah Wood.
Yeah, Elijah Wood. Thank you. He's Frodo. You know, that's why I couldn't remember his name. Because I just think of him as Frodo. But I think everyone. I mean, everyone from Bilbo to Galadriel to Aragorn and what's her face? Liv Tyler's character.
Yeah, Arwen.
Yeah, Arwen. It's perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the casting was just perfect. And then this guy, I guess this goes hand in hand too. It's just the costumes and the makeup. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I don't know how much of the orcs were CGI, but those are some freaky looking monsters. There's
a lot of makeup. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I don't remember, but I just can't help but think that these people didn't just sweep the Oscars in every category.
Well,
that year.
So it wasn't until Return of the King. So when Return of the King...
it didn't come up for nomination until Return of the King?
Well, I think it may have been nominated at different times, but basically it won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Everything at the 2003 from Return of the King. And I think it was just kind of they were like, we got to recognize Peter Jackson in these movies because they're one of the most incredible cinematic achievements ever. Like them. You know? Yeah. I don't know that there were any best actor, actress kind of stuff. Okay. But I don't know. I don't really care too much about the Academy Awards. It's whatever.
I feel you.
I'm not enough of a movie person. But I totally agree. I said the same thing about the casting. I can't think of anybody that I could even quibble with. Right. Mm-hmm. I've heard people quibble with Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn, and
that would be the one that I would.
They say he's a little bit too kind of pensive, or maybe pensive is not the right word, but maybe melancholic or something like that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Whereas I can see Aragorn in the books being a little bit more maybe a little more sure of himself, but still there's a lot of self-doubt.
There's a lot of self-doubt. There is. Yeah. If I had to think about with one, it would be Aragorn. And my thing isn't necessarily the pensive or melancholic. It's more of, I felt like I don't know. I wanted him to be manlier. I mean, not that he wasn't manly, but I just kind of wanted him to be, I felt like Boromir overshadowed him in that way, and I didn't like that. But
interesting.
That would just be my female perspective.
Okay.
But I still like Viggo Mortensen a lot, and I think he's great in that role. But that would just be my one little
criticism.
Yeah.
No, I think so. Galadriel, Cate Blanchett as Galadriel, nailed it. She's so good, and I can't think of anybody who could have done that better. And then Ian McKellen as Gandalf, so good. He is Gandalf, and and he I heard that originally they wanted to get Sean Connery to play Gandalf, and I'm so glad they didn't.
Oh, that accent would have made me crazy.
Well, it's just Sean Connery would have done I feel like Sean Connery would have Sean Connery'd it. He would have let himself. He would have gotten in the way of Gandalf.
Yes.
And Ian McKellen was less known enough, not unknown enough to not let himself get in the way of the role of Gandalf, who's got to be if you're going to make the Lord of the Rings, Gandalf has got to be perfect. If he's not, it's going to be a disaster.
Absolutely.
So,
didn't we talk about though at one point that who's the guy that plays Sauron or Saruman?
Oh, Saruman.
Yeah. Who is it that plays
Christopher
Saruman?
Lee.
Okay. Didn't we talk about how that's who Tolkien had wanted? To play Gandalf. Or
I think. Okay, I think I remember that. So yes, we did talk about this, and I can't remember which episode it was on, but basically, Saruman, Christopher Lee wanted to play Gandalf,
Okay.
And Christopher Lee is kind of like this guy that was around. He died maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, something like that. But he was this guy that was around for a long time and was like this really well-known and respected actor. And so, and I think he did at one point, maybe Tolkien like gave him his blessing to play Gandalf or something like that when he was much younger.
I remember us talking about something like that.
I think I may have read that somewhere, but I don't know. I can't remember. And
but it was funny because I remember talking about that when we were watching the movie, and I found myself trying to, like, I was watching Christopher Lee play Saruman and thinking,
he's too good as Saruman.
I know. I was like, there's no way he could be Gandalf because he's perfect as Saruman.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Christopher Lee, poor Christopher Lee. He was always typecast as kind of evil, like almost like satanic kind of people, and it's funny because like that's not how he really was. Like he was so. You know how an actor will play a certain type of role and people will just assume that's how they are in real life because they see them that way so often.
Right, yeah.
And that's what happened to Christopher Lee in the course of his life, I think. But
people would see him on the street and like run and hide.
Yeah, but like there was this interview I watched with him where, somebody like people who were, I guess some people who were like really like kind of into the occult and that kind of thing were like, they went to like some talk he gave or something, like interview he gave or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they were asking him questions about being like, was he into the occult or something like that? And he just like totally like disavowed it. He was like, no, and don't screw around with that stuff. But it was basically what he said. Like, and it was awesome to see that because so often people just assume that he's like secretly like a Satanist or something like that, But yeah, he's great as Saruman. Ian McKellen's great as Gandalf. I mean, it just, you just list them off. They're all excellent.
Yes.
John Rhys Davies as Gimli, perfect.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
You've got, Orlando Bloom as Legolas, perfect. Yeah.
He was the eye candy.
Yeah.
Getting the girls to the theater.
That's right. Even Merry and Pippin,
oh yeah.
So they're so good. Billy Boyd and was Pippin, and then Dominic what's his last name? Monaghan or something like that.
Mary.
Yeah, for Mary. Yeah.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
All good. Oh, and the guy, who's the guy that plays Boromir? Sean Bean, I think is his name. He's great too as Boromir.
Yeah.
He nails Boromir.
He does. He's a really good job as Boromir.
So casting, perfect.
Yep.
Can't think of any way to do it. Really have done it better. So you said casting, so it's my turn again?
Yeah, it's your
turn. Let's see. Well, I just thought they did a great job of like sort of getting the different cultures right. Like the Hobbit, we talked about the Hobbit culture some, and they get that so right with the beginning. The Elvish culture, like, how different they both are from each other, right? The Hobbit culture and the Elvish culture.
Yes.
Even the little glimpse we get of like Dwarvish culture with Moria and just Gimli and that kind of thing. We sets a good tone there. And then just the culture of men and kind of like the sort of the brooding despair that's at the heart of men in that time, right? Because they're like, we live short lives and we die, and like, and we messed it up. And
we had the chance to, end it all at once, and we didn't, and now it's all our fault.
Right.
That we're in this mess.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. That was really well done too.
And speaking of that, like Moria, I love the way they did Moria, and I feel like they got that, really great too. Just the, it's a 40-mile hike under the mountain, and we've been in some caves before, and when you just kind of stop to think about being like in a cave, like, and just how dark it can be, and you never know really what's around any corner. I feel like they got that eerie feeling.
Oh, for sure.
They nailed it on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Although speaking with Moria, I don't mean to change the subject too much, but the one thing that did bug me a little bit with that whole scene is that in the movie they had Frodo choose the way, right? Are we going to go into Moria, or are we going to do this other route, right?
Right.
And Frodo was just like, oh, we're going to go to Moria.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's not at all how it happened.
Yeah.
You know, like, it kind of bugged me a little bit that they didn't actually, you know, show that they were forced to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they made it basically, they put it on Frodo. Like, it was Frodo's decision, and he, you know, it was his fault. Obviously, that Gandalf ended up dying because he's the one that chose to go into the mines, you know?
Right.
Whereas in the book, it's clear they didn't have a choice.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not too far off the beaten path. I mean, I know it's not the same as the book, but it's not too far off the beaten path because, you know, later on in the book, they talk a lot about how Frodo, I mean, obviously the last chapter we read, like, Frodo has to make the decision on what happens next. You know, like, as the ring bearer, he's the one that has to make the decision.
Yeah, he does.
Anyway, I'm just, yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, and maybe this gets to, like, the broader point that you were making. I was actually okay with a lot of the ways they kind of, like, cut corners on the story. You know, I think it's still 3.5 hours. So it's like, how would they have done it any differently in a film version? Part of me dreams that one day maybe they'll do, like, a TV version of it, and, like you know, like a whole season where, like, each chapter is just, like, you know, or totally 2 chapters in each episode or something like that. And they just really take their time a little more. Because, you know, like, from the beginning of... from Bilbo's birthday party until the departure of Frodo from the Shire with the ring, do you remember how much time had elapsed?
In the book?
In the book.
Several chapters.
No, I mean, how many years?
Oh, how many years?
Yeah.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah, it was 17 years.
Yeah.
17 years between Bilbo's birthday party and when Frodo leaves, right?
Yeah.
So there's, like, you know, the book, it's like Bilbo's birthday party. Frodo hangs on to the ring for a little while.
You mean in the movie?
In the movie, yeah. Frodo hangs on. Gandalf tells Frodo to hang on to the ring, not do anything with it, don't put it on. And he rides off to Gondor, does some reading, comes back, and it's like, you know, for all we know, it's like a couple days later, right?
Right, yeah, that's true. You don't get a sense of how long it's been. Right. Yeah.
But I don't really mind it too much in the movie. Like, and a lot of the things that are cut out, I see why they cut them out. So I thought on whole, the storytelling was well done. Like the cinematic sort of storytelling they had to do was well done. Right. Even though they cut a lot of corners. Now there will be some things I mentioned that I wish they hadn't.
Yeah. Oh, it struck me too that having just finished the book, and this didn't strike me before when I watched the movie, but I just, again, on that same note, how quickly the movie moves. Like, it's almost like you're kind of on fast forward mode. Yeah. You know, because it's just like, wait, they're there already? Like, that's supposed to take, you know, like months. And, you know. I mean, not that but like same thing you said. I mean, it was 3.5 hours as it was. So, I don't know how much slower they could have gone. Right. But they did a good job, I think, of keeping with that whole spirit of Tolkien, you know, just the whole wandering. And I think they did a good job of kind of giving you a feel of that, kind of just...
Yeah, they did.
You know what I mean? Like the slower pace and the
they've got
meandering spirit.
Right. A lot of what they had to do was... you know, like they had to do just kind of like sweeping sort of scenes, like, you know, landscape views, you know, to give you the sense of like they've traveled a long distance. Yes. So, that's true. You know, movie is, you know, cinema is a different way of telling stories, right? And I thought, you know, on whole, they did a pretty darn good job. Now, the big thing that's obviously cut out of Fellowship, the big chunk that's cut out of Fellowship is basically, the Old Forest, Tom Bombadil, and the Barrow Wight, right? You know, so I really wish that they could have figured into it somehow. You know, not like whole, you know, not like half an hour worth, but just something. You know, like I feel like Tom Bombadil not being in there is just like.
I mean, he's like the reason they don't get caught by the ring wraiths, right? When they're on their way to the ferry.
No. You're thinking of Farmer Maggot, right?
Oh.
No, this is
in there.
So they cross the Brandywine, and they wind up on the other side of. They wind up in Buckland, right, which is still part of the Shire. It's technically
and they
part
have
of the
that
Shire.
house there.
Yeah, and then they cross over into the Old Forest, right? They kind of go this like back way into the Old Forest because they know the riders won't follow them in there.
That's right.
And then there's Old Man Willow.
Yes.
There's Tom Bombadil.
That's right.
And then the ring, not the ring race, but the Barrow White.
Right.
Right.
Tom Bombadil saves them from something.
The Barrow White.
The Barrow White.
Yeah.
Okay.
He also saves them from Old Man Willow.
Right.
He saves them from Old Man Willow. That's how they meet him,
That's-
and then they leave, and then he saves them from the Barrow White.
Yeah.
So, I wish there was some vestige of that had been left in place.
That's a big thing to cut
But
out.
maybe they just figured like, and Tom, even Tolkien himself admitted that Tom Bombadil was not like, he wasn't key to the story.
He's kind of an enigma. I bet Peter Jackson probably was just like, I'm going to deal with him. Like, he's just weird and crazy. I don't know what to make of him.
He's like, I don't know what to do because he talks in rhymes.
Right.
He kind of talks in this sing-songy thing. So what do I do with Tom Bombadil?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, it would have been tricky for sure. You think Old Man Willow would have been easy enough to do with CGI?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they do Ents in the other movies, so why not do the same thing with Old Man Willow?
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Oh well.
So they left Tom Bombadil. They
They
left out
did.
Old Man Willow. They left out
And Tom
Goldberry,
Bombadil's-
they left
yeah,
out.
Goldberry, that's right.
The Barrow White.
Yeah.
So
The Barrow White probably would have been hard to do.
yeah.
But it would have been cool.
It would have been cool. Been really cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one gripe that I had. Any gripes that you had? What you wanted to share? Other gripes that you haven't mentioned?
Well, yeah, I don't like how they did the council.
Yeah, so you mentioned that to me earlier today. Like, what don't you like about it?
Well, first of all, it's not how I pictured it in my head.
Okay.
There should have been a table.
Okay.
There's no table.
All right.
It bugged me that they were just like in a semicircle, like at this informal, staff meeting. Mm-hmm. That's how it came across to me. Like it just wasn't. It didn't have an important enough feel. Like they were just like in the side room, like of Elron's, house, and they were just like,
Well, they were outdoors. They weren't in a room. It was outdoors.
That's true. They were outdoors. They were on a porch or something, though, weren't they?
Yeah, something like
that. There
that.
was a floor.
Yeah.
Anyway, it bugged me that there wasn't a table. And I just thought, I just pictured, Aragorn and Elron, sitting on, thrones, but just, not folding chairs, they were in the movie. They were folding chairs. I'm like, come on! We need to, at least important-looking, boardroom chairs.
Yeah.
First of all, and this is actually kind of ironic that I'm bringing this up, because the Council of Elrond was not one of my favorite chapters in the book. I thought it was long and boring.
I know, that is ironic,
Yeah.
because you complained about Council of Elrond before, and now you're like, they didn't get it right. It was too intriguing. It wasn't long and boring enough.
That's kind of it. I feel like they left a lot out.
They did, yeah.
But if they put that in, I probably would be complaining about it too, because I'd be like, it was too long. But I think what bothered me about it mostly was that it was just Gimli didn't get his say. He didn't say hardly anything.
Well, he tries to destroy the ring, right? He tries to.
Well, he does, but he
hack it.
doesn't actually talk about the dwarf history and stuff like he does in the book. And Boromir, the stuff that he ends up saying, he actually doesn't say until he sees Frodo in the after they've gotten to the falls at the end of the book, right? About how we should use it against our enemies, and this is a gift for us, and blah blah blah. I felt like it was just cut and pasted, too much, and that there were just, I didn't like the feel of it. I feel like it had, it just didn't feel weighty enough for my liking.
Gotcha.
But I did like that that Sam was eavesdropping. I mean, not dropping eaves or whatever he says.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my gripe with the council. I feel like it could have been just a bit more oomph to it.
Yeah, I hear you.
It just made it made this whole, because that's really that's really a big, the culmination of a lot of different things is what do we do now? So it was an important meeting. It's where they picked the fellow, and just the way they picked the fellowship too. I felt like it was totally anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Like, it just felt very PC to me. And I was just like, okay, there's got to be an elf. There's got to be a dwarf. Like, you know.
Yeah, coming
I
soon is Greta's bonus episode on why she doesn't like the Council of Elron and Philip.
I'll stop now. I'll get off my soapbox.
So basically, you're saying because there wasn't a table, you didn't like that scene.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the chairs weren't fancy enough either.
The chairs weren't fancy enough.
And they weren't drinking ale.
They weren't drinking ale. Well, it wouldn't be wise to drink ale at a council.
Well, it's drink ale at a council. But they could have been drinking, you know, like elven juice or something.
Yeah.
Non-compromising.
You don't drink and deem doom.
Don't drink and deem. Yeah, no, I just wanted it to feel more important.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just kind of glossed over.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
Fair enough. I'm okay with it. I mean, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it is kind of. I noticed that the chairs don't seem stately enough.
Mm-hmm.
Are
you just humoring me?
I mean, I'm trying to see it through your eyes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a problem with that scene, so I'm just trying to understand.
It should have been more like House of Cards.
Yeah.
Like when they're in the Situation Room. Like that's what it needed to be, because that's what it was. There was a situation and they needed to deal with it.
So did you feel like it was too like because they were like in a circle? Was it almost too like?
They're in a semicircle.
Was it almost too much like you know, like almost like too democratic or something like that, or it was just like let's all have kind of our share our feelings.
Yeah,
time.
it was a little too kumbaya for my taste.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, where's the bonfire?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and the guitar. I mean, this, yeah, it needed to be more stately.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So, oh, my next one, my gripe.
Yeah, you're great.
I've never liked the Balrog. The you know,
like the giant demon thing.
Yeah.
Too much form.
Too much form because he's too much flame, not enough shadow. That's what it is, right? Too much flame, not enough shadow.
Yes.
And he looks a little too like it looks a little too like kind of like caricature demonic to me. You know, it's like got the horns.
Yeah,
and,
I see what
you know.
Yes.
It's ugly and like I don't know. There's been a lot of like debate over what this should have looked like, but I feel like the feeling you get is that it's more like this oppressive sort of like spirit. You know, it's like this like place of darkness. You know, like almost like this emptiness, this like extreme emptiness that kind of is wreathed in fire. You know,
yeah.
It has a shape. It's not that it's just this like nebulous thing, but I feel like it's almost too definite in the.
I can totally see that
in the movie.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's a little too dragony and.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that completely.
Yeah. So.
I would agree.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else for you?
Yeah, no, this may be a little nitpicky, but I don't like that they cut Sam out of looking in the mirror.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, I know it's just kind of a small thing, but I feel like that scene in the book really does a lot. Like it's an important character development part for him, but it also shows you why. Like it gives you insight as to why he's so committed to this quest. Mm-hmm. You know, because he sees what could happen. Right. If they're unsuccessful or if he doesn't go along. So I wanted to see him look in the mirror, just because I feel like what he sees is very telling, and it really kind of explains more of his character and his loyalty to Frodo and to the quest.
Yeah.
So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I missed that.
Good one.
But I will say, on the flip side, I think that Galadriel was perfect. Like, they did Galadriel perfect when she gets, like, all big and huge and scary when she's tempted. I think her temptation
I griped about that. I have a gripe about that.
You have a gripe about
that?
Yeah. I thought it was really good.
I thought it was over CGI'd.
You think so? Mm-hmm. I was a little worried that our 8-year-old would have a nightmare about it that night, but...
I think, I went back and read that part in the book, and yeah, she does get, like... Remember, the light all emanates from her ring, right? Because she's got one of the 3 Elvish rings. And so when she has, like, kind of that little temptation episode, the light, like, emanates from her ring. And it's like... And yeah, it does black everything else out. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the CGI was it was a little too cheesy for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like it was a little cheesy. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not a special effects artist. It just so much is done well visually in that movie, and I felt like that particular part, it's almost like it's a little bit overdone. It's like it's over visualized.
Yeah.
It's a similar gripe to what I basically to what I say about the Balrog, right? Like, I feel like it's a little bit overwrought, trying a little too hard.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I can see what you're saying.
I griped about Galadriel. I interrupted you, though. You were talking about why you liked it. Now, hopefully I haven't just completely spoiled it for you.
No, I still like it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I think that scene in the book, it comes across as very terrifying and, like, otherworldly and supernatural. And I feel like that was communicated very well. Whereas, like, the other people that are tempted with the ring, like Boromir and even Bilbo, it's just, they don't kind of play on it as much as they do with Galadriel. Like, I feel like, I think it was a big deal. Like, it was obviously that her temptation was a bigger deal than the other temptations.
Right.
And I feel like that was communicated very well in what they did. But I can see what you're saying, too.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Anyway.
Cool. We'll just call it a draw.
Yeah.
All right.
Even Steven.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else? Oh. So, Saruman. I don't like what they did with his story, because in the book, Saruman decides that he's going to set up his own king. Basically, remember when we talked about the wizards a few weeks ago, and like how they weren't supposed to use their powers to domineer over the free peoples of Middle Earth.
Right. Yeah.
In the book, that's exactly what Saruman does. He finally says, like, we've got to set up our own power against Sauron, right?
Right.
And we've got to start kind of building our own armies, to go against him, right? In the movie, he basically betrays them and joins Sauron's team,
Yeah.
He just signs up for Sauron's team. So I feel like there's a little subtle kind of thing there that isn't the way it should be.
His character
to the story,
to the plot line.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's not like it ruined it for me or anything like that, but just a little something that isn't quite.
That would have been hard to portray in the movie.
There's so much in Tolkien's world that where bad guys aren't all on this. It's not like good guys versus bad guys. It's like you got a whole bunch of guys who are maybe kind of good, and then you got bad guys, and not all the bad guys are on the same team, right? Gollum is not on Sauron's team.
Right.
Gollum just wants the ring for himself.
Yes, he's a complete loner.
And Saruman is not on Sauron's team in the book. Right? Saruman is trying to set up his own kind of little kingdom, and thinks that he's got to go against Sauron in order to, directly. He's got to kind of he's got to take matters into his own hands.
Right.
Maybe they feel like that would have been too difficult to explain.
I think it would have been, because I feel like there's a lot of backstory that would have needed to happen to really get people to get that. Yeah.
Well, add another hour on and show Gandalf and the rest of the wizards arriving, at the beginning of the Third Age, and and kind of set the stage, and you can have Manwë telling them what they can and can't do, and what's an extra hour on the movie?
That's true. When
it's only 4.5 hours at that point.
I was going to say, when you're at 3.5, it is another hour. Really not. And that's funny. It doesn't seem like it's that long, because it flows. I feel
it does,
really well.
Yeah, it's the shortest 3.5 hour movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I wanted to bring up, like a little gripe of mine, another one, is their journey into Lothlorien. I feel like I really missed the fight with Gimli and Legolas. That was completely left out, and I missed them spending that night in the trees, and seeing Gollum sneak up. They totally and I understand why he did it. I mean, you can't put it all in, but I did miss. I feel like they did Lorien. I think they had the falling leaves and everything. I felt like that was really pretty. But I just feel like their journey into Lothlorien was cut very short, and I would have liked to have seen a little bit
Yeah.
Well, just a couple of those things.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Again, just a lot that's cut out, and you just can't put everything into a 3.5 hour time frame even. So I think again, maybe just to summarize, because I'm out of things to gripe about. I think, are you too?
I have one more.
One more? Okay, go ahead.
There wasn't an invisible Frodo in the boat trying to save Sam from drowning.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
That I missed. That was a bummer.
Yeah.
And I didn't like how they changed that a lot.
Yeah.
And I know you said the movies don't line up exactly like the book. Like, I get that. And I think the Fellowship goes a little bit into Two Towers stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't like that. I mean, because they did the thing with Boromir and Frodo great. Like, I thought that was really well done with the temptation of Boromir. But then, they don't have Frodo sneaking away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Aragorn lets him go.
Yeah.
So I didn't like how they changed that, and I really wanted to see like an invisible Frodo maneuvering a boat.
I'll say that about Tolkien's book. Like, it surprises me that just after Frodo like goes through the struggle where he takes the ring off and he's got like one chance to take it off.
Yeah.
And he puts it right back on.
Yeah.
So he can go down. I guess he feels like he has to in order to get to the river, but.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
I don't know. It's just weird to me that Tolkien did it that way. But I will say on that scene, I would have liked when he puts the ring on just after Boromir attacks him. He puts the ring on and he goes up onto the Aemon Hen. Aemon Hen. I would have loved him actually look out and do the whole panoramic view, before the eye comes to him.
Yeah, the eye comes real quick.
And then there was no voice. There was no voice telling him to take it off, right? Maybe they felt like that would have been too spoilerish, that Gandalf was still alive, or like too much like Star Wars, use the Force, Luke, or something like that, like.
True, maybe, but yeah, you're right. There wasn't a voice.
But I think they should have had the voice in there.
I agree, and it would have been nice to have seen everything that he sees before the eye comes, because the eye does come almost like right away.
Right.
Yeah, but overall. Really good.
Mm-hmm.
And just the fact that our two older kids sat through the entire thing. I mean,
our younger kid won't sit through any movies.
He won't sit through anything.
Yeah,
baseball's
game. On. Yeah.
So I mean, that speaks a lot of good about the movie too. That it held, it captivated young children as well.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well. Yeah. Them's our thoughts. Thanks, Peter Jackson.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for making a great movie that turned me on to Tolkien, and here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. I guess we'll probably do the same thing, after we watch after we finish the Two Towers, and after we finish Return of the King. But
that's a ways down the road.
Yeah, ways down the road. Got about, at least 20 episodes before we get to Two Towers, and then another 20 before we get to Return of the King.
Yeah. But we'll get there.
We made it this far.
That's right. No stopping now.
That's right.
That's the point of no return.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Hey, if you got your own thoughts on the movie you want to share, feel free. Send them over.
Yes, please do.
We'll maybe if we get enough, maybe we'll just do a separate episode or a bonus episode or something like that, where we just talk about people's feedback, and
that would be really fun.
On the movies. But go ahead and send it anyway. If we don't get a ton, then maybe we'll just mention it on future episodes as we get it. So, just whenever you get this, even if it's 25 episodes from now and you just want to share your thoughts on Fellowship, feel free to do so. So,
yes.
Love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
All right.
As always.
Well, thanks so much for listening, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Next episode, got another kind of little special kind of tangent planned. We got a few more special tangents planned. I think the next thing we're going to do, not next week, not next episode, but episode after that, I think we're going to do a Calabaith, right? So it's the part of the Silmarillion that we haven't finished yet.
Right.
So if you want to submit haiku for a Calabaith, let's see here.
You're pronouncing that very well.
Calabaith
would be proud.
I'm keeping it in mind how he said it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. This episode will be released on August 27th, and then the next episode will be the 3rd, and then the one after that will be the 10th. So try to have your haiku for Calabaith to us by September 7th. September 7th is the due date. So,
alrighty. Sounds
all
like a
right.
plan.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
We'll talk at you next time.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye. Please remember to check out truemyths.org for show notes and plenty of other Tolkien goodness. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, would you please leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes? It's a great way to support the show and takes less than a minute. Thanks for listening, and until next time, the road goes ever on.